Welcome back to the Making of GOSSE. In this final installment, we have distribution and release. Once again, I used LANDR as I have since 2020. Here I am creating a new release on LANDR. It's my first EP size release with two earlier tracks that were released, Teenage Fugue and Purpose. And on this GOSSE EP, which is codename Practice for a while, the title track GOSSE is being released for the first time itself, so all of that has to be set up. The title language, what can sometimes be a tricky genre and subgenre, although in this case, I think IDM seems to be what it reminds me of the most. Artists, where we add our artists, and if we've released before, we get to select, otherwise we create a new one. And other sort of legal and copyright information, who created and owns the composition, etc. Now for the cover art, first off, I want to say that for this one, it's an unusual design, because this is sort of like the practice of GOSSE, or a practice of a release, or the fact that I know that I will redo it and remaster it one day, as I'll remaster a lot of these other recent tracks and maybe put them on a longer piece of work, perhaps the first ANIMISM album. So I know this track is going to be released again. What I wanted to accomplish through this style and design was that sort of under the radar, like this unassuming, hidden in a vintage old record shop, something from the early 1900s, not even something like that, because I even imagined an earlier era where there were concert halls of a ballet of geese and swans and distinguished bird guests. And so otherwise it doesn't stand out, and I sort of like that. I believe this is going to be one of those tracks that later on, when people hear it, they'll be like, what is this thing? So it's like one of those best kept secrets, that assuming old record. And then when we remaster GOSSE, believe me, there's going to be some incredible artwork. So once the artwork is designed, we upload it. It gives us a list of things we can do and we shouldn't do, and what we're not allowed to do. But the size is, it should be a square at a fairly high resolution. And then we proceed with the more exciting part. Which stores do we want our music to play inside? You notice I do not select Amazon Music, and that's just a personal taste, but I've eliminated Amazon from my life. And I've tried to do other big data corporations and things, but to me Amazon was always a bookstore from the beginning, and there's things about them I'm not so happy about. I don't know why I'm picking on Amazon actually, because the other ones are also quite, but I'll be thinking about that. Let's see at the next release if I could succumb to my own internal blocks. Now, as far as monetization, I can't monetize GOSSE as a track because it's over 10 minutes long, and so at least a YouTube content ID. But I can monetize on TikTok and the Meta brands. Exciting, you get to pick the release date. And so I always learn, like, it says 14 days from now or later, and I've made the mistake before where I've mastered the track and then prepared to submit it 2 weeks before the release date. So say submit it on a Friday, and I want it to be released 2 Fridays later. And unfortunately, it won't allow that. It seems to be 15 days plus. So if you want it on that Friday in 2 weeks, you need to submit it on the Thursday. And so, and now in general, as I keep pushing out periodic releases, every couple of months they're coming out steadier and steadier, I'm aiming for 4 weeks out. And then if there's really a date that I like, which is often based on numerology and also how it looks sometimes, and how it will also look in American culture where they reverse the dates. And so I don't want to confuse too many Americans, but you're welcome. As we continue now, so I find it really exciting. I love picking the dates. This one, I released Goss, well, I thought Valentine's Day, it was the date coming up. It was like, why not? I could have done my mother's birthday the week before, but Valentine's Day, because it is a song of love. Oh God, it's not a love song. But I just need to stop talking. As we continue this video now, we have selected our release date. Any country restrictions, like if you're mad at certain countries, I suppose you could do it, but or you've got a lot of stalkers from a country, which seems to be the case in the country where I am right now, where sometimes there aren't tracks allowed to be played here for whatever reason. So maybe somebody didn't tick that box or create an exception. Now, the release review information. You see the waveforms. Now this is the release, so there's Teenage Fugue, which is the opening check. I will do the order differently, perhaps in some future release. And Purpose in the middle, I never expected that, but I thought if that's the first track, begin the Amazon EP with Purpose, people will absolutely not pay attention and get to the end of it. So at least Teenage Fugue is a bit juvenile but catchy. And then we've got the new release, Goss. Take 18, version 6, or actually version 18, take 6. Double, triple check these things. Your preview clip, like the 30 seconds people will hear if they press play on a preview, making sure all the legal stuff is correct. Have you mentioned everyone you need to? The genre, subgenre, are there extra artists? And double check, triple check, release settings, make sure sites we didn't want aren't in there. Countries to exclude? No. In fact, no planet shall be excluded from this song. And what to expect once I submit my release? You get some love from LANDR. And LANDR have been great for me for over 5 years. I've been using them, and I find their customer support, for my experiences, quite excellent, actually. And usually for the release, you get a reply pretty quick, I find. As long as you've ticked all the boxes and followed the specs and all those things. So one last thing, one by one, to submit your release, please read and confirm, and actually do this, because this is your legal contract in a way that governs the rights over our music. And so we just have to make sure we know what we're taking away. And I think this is important in any sort of terms and agreement of a site. You don't have to read the full 400-page mumbo jumbo, but like if there's a summary here, just make sure. I have the rights required for LANDR and authorize them on a non-exclusive basis. I grant them the necessary rights. It's sort of like it's double checking it, but the wording is more specific in a different way. This one, well, obviously you can read the terms of service as well. But also we just make sure that we have credited everybody we have to credit. And then if any money comes in, that's our responsibility for paying people. You can't be booking a whole bunch of collaborators and saying, yo, Holmes, 20% each, we're gonna rock this thing, all right? And then when your money comes in, you're telling them they gotta go talk to LANDR about getting their money back. It just ain't legit. So let's just agree to the terms of service. You could copy paste it and put it into a GPT if you wanted to really query or interrogate the terms of service, but don't otherwise. If you did that for every site, you're probably not going to use any sites at all. And woohoo! Your release has been submitted. They will review for things like, is there anything in the image that shouldn't be there? And when there is text, there are strict rules on what text you're allowed to put on your release and track artwork. And so I follow those rules to the T, but no doubt they will scrutinize to make sure there aren't also any hidden naughty words in there as well, which there aren't. It's just the name of the track / release. There's the name of the artist, ANIMISM, and somewhere in tiny text, I can't see, should have the names of the tracks. And in fact, this piece of artwork was actually very mildly tweaked. If you can spot the difference between the two, I will give you something of new music type for free. So message me and say you actually heard this, and the next thing is yours. And now we just wait. We've submitted it, we've selected the date. Now, the mistake that I make is that when I've submitted and it's released, my energy for the track is sort of like it's a big emotional and physical drop off. I put passion into the final touches, the final mixing, the exporting, and then the mastering back and forth until I hear the version that has it gives me there's an emotional connection. I can feel like this is the one. Um, so after that, I feel quite deflated. And the thing is, like, I had a whole bunch of social content planned for Goss. I tried to do the 3x3, so 9 squares of Instagram posts to make it into a record shape. And of course, just as I was releasing the song, Instagram changed its dimensions. So my whole plan is out of whack and took too long. Because as soon as this was done, I really did not feel like spending countless hours more getting all the social stuff together. And so this is more of a note to self and to the 6.5 people also listening to this, that next time in that wave of the final mix, and I need to give my ears a break, I guess, from the actual mix and the finer details and stuff. But I'm still passionate about the song, and I'm loving in that moment of this whole creation and finishing process. And there's a reminder to self that sometimes take a break from mixing and work on whatever's going to come out to support it. And so when release day is done, everything is pretty much ready to go at that point, and then it's just about scheduling and getting it out, which is still a bit of work, but at least that creative, forcing creative and time and editing and stuff like that can be vacated and then filled with the next new project and song, because I feel that has been slowing down my ability to finish off Gnosis, which will be the next release after this. So I thank you very much for tuning in this long. May it have been insightful for you. If you have not heard the track yet, find it on your favorite streaming platform, and it's in all but one store in the world. So, thank you. Good evening.